In this lesson, we will look at some general features of the ECAM failure mode. The main component is the left ECAM display, sometimes referred to as the warning display, WD. It presents warning messages, status, and in normal mode, memo information to the crew. Modern technology has given the ECAM a lot of knowledge. For those who are familiar with computers, the ECAM is like an expert system, an intelligent being who has stored up all the technical knowledge of the aircraft and can assess the situation rapidly and tell you what you should do. The ECAM system also generates visual and audio signals which accompany the warning message. Audio signals are transmitted by the cockpit loudspeakers, and visual signals are displayed by the CRTs and the master lights. Select the forward arrow to see the ECAM reaction to a system failure. All indications of a warning happen at the same time, but for training purposes we will look at the master lights and sounds first. These may be the first indication the crew has that a problem or failure has occurred. Then we'll look at the warning display in detail and the accompanying system display if available. This follows the recommended order of actions when there's a failure. Once the appropriate procedure has been executed, we will look at the secondary problems which may result from this failure. And finally, we will look at the information on the status page, which tells you how the failure has affected your aircraft's capabilities. Let's begin. There are two master lights located on each pilot's instrument panel. The master lights provide a visual indication that a malfunction has occurred and how severe it is. They do not, however, indicate the cause of the problem. When either master light illuminates, it is usually accompanied by an audio warning. The single chime sounds when there is a master caution. The title of the warning is also printed in amber. This indicates an abnormal situation which does not immediately involve safety. When the master warning push button comes on and flashes, the continuous repetitive chime, CRC, sounds. This is an emergency situation. The faulty system appears in red on the left ECAM. As safety is involved, immediate action is required. This failure takes priority over any other failures. The master lights are in fact push buttons, and to acknowledge both the caution or warning, the pilot should push the illuminated push button. Selecting the push button extinguishes the light and also stops the continuous repetitive chime if it is sounding. This will also rearm the push button. Clearing the master lights enables any subsequent failures to trigger again the master lights. Once the lights and sounds are off, the pilots need to refer to the ECAM display units to see what the problem is and start correcting it. Let's look at some types of failures. The master lights enables any subsequent failures to trigger again the master lights. Once the lights and sounds are off, the pilots need to refer to the ECAM display units to see what the problem is and start correcting it. Let's look at some types of failures. As well as the difference between an amber warning and a red or emergency warning, there is also a difference in severity depending on the type of failure. Select the forward arrow to see the most common type of failure, an independent failure. An independent failure is one which affects an isolated item of equipment or system without affecting other items of equipment or system on the aircraft. Once you've dealt with this problem, there are no more immediate consequences of the failure. A status page may or may not be displayed to show you the effect on the aircraft and how your aircraft is. However, a primary failure may have more serious consequences. This is where a failure of an item of equipment or system causes the loss of other items of equipment. You'll have more to do than you think in this situation. The primary failure is boxed to make it more prominent. In this case, the yellow system is in low pressure and its loss will affect other systems. Boxed items will appear in red or amber depending how serious the loss is. In our example, we still have other hydraulic systems running, so the boxed item is shown in amber. Secondary failures are inevitable after a primary or boxed failure. The secondary failures are shown here, indicated by an asterisk. We'll look in more detail at the secondary failures later. Now let's look at some other codes and symbols that appear on the warning display. The colours and codes are the same whether the failure is an independent or a primary failure. Here we have an independent failure, which is an emergency situation. The master warning light comes on with the related audio warning. At the same time, the left display unit shows what the problem is and what to do to rectify the fault. If it exists, the corresponding system page will appear on the right display. In the case of an avionics smoke, there is no related system page, so the cruise page stays on. As for every warning display, the light on the clear push button also comes on the ECAM control panel to remind you to clear the warning message when the actions are completed. We've cancelled the warning for you, so we can look at the warning display in more detail. The main title will be at the top of the page and always underlined. As the problem is an emergency warning where safety is involved, the title is in red. As mentioned before, emergency failures always appear on the top of the screen. Below the title are listed the actions to correct the malfunction. Each corrective action has its own line. Lines beginning with a dash indicate a procedure. You have to carry out the set of actions. The actions to be performed are usually shown in cyan. Always start with the item at the top of the list. Lines starting with a bullet are conditional statements. The ECAM has no way of knowing if or when a condition will be met. Therefore, subsequent actions are shown anyway. In this example, operating the sniffer fan may confirm the smoke, or it may not. Let's do as the ECAM indicates and see how it responds. Because there is no way the ECAM can detect the operation of the sniffer fan, there is no feedback on the ECAM to your actions in this case. If the smoke is confirmed, you would then put on your mask and goggles immediately. The final action in this list refers you to the QRH or paper checklist to do the rest of the procedure. QRH procedures are always indicated on the ECAM this way, whether they appear when dealing with a failure or on the status page. We'll look at the QRH in detail in the next lesson. Now let's look at another example, this time when there are secondary failures, and see how the ECAM responds. In this failure, there is only one action to perform, but the boxed information means that there are other secondary failures to deal with later. master caution light, you should deal with the failure. Follow the ECAM actions shown on the warning display. In this case, the line on the ECAM changes colour to white and becomes a statement of the new configuration. This matches the colour and style of the off indication on the yellow pump push button. You have no more actions to perform on this page, so you should select the Clear key on the ECAM control panel to clear the warning message. This is a list of the failures in the flight control system caused by the loss of pressure in the yellow hydraulic system. When the secondary failures are displayed, the right ECAM will also display the related system page, if it exists. You must perform these corrective actions on the flight control system, although it may not be faulty itself. The way the actions are indicated and your response to them is the same as for a primary failure. Perform the first action in the list. Notice again the feedback on the ECAM is the same physical match as that on the control panel. Once you had performed all the actions, the ECAMs and panels would look like this. To continue with the procedure, the Clear push button must be selected. However, the ECAM should not be cleared without both pilots cross-checking the displays. Clear the warning display now. We will look at the status page next. Notice the Clear key remains lit until you're back on the memo page. The status page gives an operational summary of the aircraft's condition following failures which affect the flight. The status page will be displayed automatically when all actions on all systems have been completed and the Clear push button is pressed. It can also be displayed by pressing the status push button on the ECAM control panel at any time. Let's take a look at what is on a status page. If there were any emergency items, such as land as soon as possible, they would be shown in red to the left of the boxed title. Landing capability indications are shown to the right of the title in amber. The body of the status page is divided in 4 areas. Select each area to find out more about them. Limitations are always shown in cyan and are preceded with a bullet. Here there's only one, but they can extend over many lines. As we saw before, procedures are shown underlined in cyan. You must refer to the QRH or paper checklist to carry out these procedures. Here we see a list of systems which are inoperative. More severe losses, such as dual hydraulic failure, would be shown in red. Information is shown in green and appears last in the list. Status information can easily extend to a second page. If this is the case, pushing Clear will cause the second page to appear on the screen. Selecting the Clear push button when all the pages have been read will return you to the memo page. Do this now. If there is only one page of status information, pushing the Clear key will display the memo page. Notice the word Status in magenta to the right of the title. This will remain as a reminder that the aircraft's capabilities have been affected by the previous failure. We are back to the normal mode. Note the system display shows the page related to the phase of flight. That completes our first look at the failure mode. We'll look at more examples of failures in the next lesson, but first, some questions.